Guys, what's going on? Sombre del Piso here in some playground. The only reason why I came here is because in my memories lies the euphoria felt from playing Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse. Contrary to popular belief, I really liked that game. I thought it was pretty cool. But anyway, there was a whole bunch of playgrounds in that post-apocalyptic world. And I saw this one and I figured, okay, I might as well record in it, right? Today, we're gonna go into semen retention, but we're gonna talk about the opposite of semen retention. What happens when you sort of sin sexually, based off the evidence from a person who studied this stuff. The person that we're going to analyze today is Bernarr MacFadden. He's not alive, right? He died a little while ago. But he was a nutritionist. He was known, I think, for his radical diets. He actually proposed years ago that in order for optimal health of the American, you need to remove bleached flour from your diet, refine sugar, and cut down your fats. That was seen as radical at the time that he said it. Now it's included with all these very, very modish, in vogue diets that are in all of your magazines that you guys consume every day. He also advocated for sex education. He believed that men needed to understand how powerful the sex energy really is and how to utilize it in order to further your personal ambition. Interesting stuff. So we're going to read a passage, or a chapter, from one of his books. Let me go pull that up right now. Don't forget to, of course, like, comment, subscribe. And let's get right into it. The name of the book is called The Virile Powers of Superb Manhood: How Developed, How Lost, and How Regained. Assuming that you've hit the second option, the first ladder. Okay, so written by Bernarr MacFadden. The chapter we're gonna go over, is we're gonna go over masturbation. The third chapter. Obviously, we could tell, in this chapter, he's gonna go over a couple things on the negatives of masturbation, or, of course, release of the nutrients through masturbation, through ejaculation. Let's talk about it. Or let's read, and then we're gonna talk about it. The loss of physical manhood resulting from this one evil is horrible to contemplate. The thing is, it's so funny. We read the first literal sentence. We didn't even get into the meat and bones of this whole thing. It's only after you've lost something valuable that you understand how valuable that thing is, especially when you were born with that thing and you've lived with that valuable thing and you've never had a moment during that time frame where you were without that thing. The reason why Bernard led with a sentence like that is because he understands the value of the nutrients in your body, especially the refined, concentrated nutrients that is produced by the prioritized system of the body, the reproductive system, and that gross material, the sperm. Let's continue. The laws of sex should be as plain as the alphabet to every human being, even from early childhood. Boys grow up without a word said to them on this important subject. They come in contact with the most horrible and most destructive evils of life almost before the real struggle of life begins. You see, so trust me, most of the people that's watching this channel, I'm completely sure that your parents did not talk to you about masturbation. Or if they did, they probably had some lame platitude like, oh, you'll go blind if you masturbate, or, oh, you'll grow hair on your palms if you masturbate. But they were just platitudes used as entertainment. They were not to be taken seriously because your parents weren't taught this way. They weren't taught the correct way, and their parents weren't taught the correct way. He's saying that we as a group of individuals were not taught the correct way on how to handle this force. We unknowingly sort of slip into the realm of masturbation, and that malady, right, that comes with masturbation, it's something that we've come to accept, sort of like a Stockholm syndrome. That's life. Everyone masturbates, and no one's told me any different besides that lame little saying that my mom used to say once upon a time, you going blind, but that's about it. No one's ever tutored in this vice, horrible vice, that evolves and morphs and transforms. Seriously. Let's read on. They enter it without a word of warning. This is the usual condition. Think of it, reader. He's talking to us. Of course, with the book, he is naturally talking to us. Parents who claim to love their children allow this because they to some degree, I'm sure parents, you know, when you have your door closed, you've been quiet instead of running around the house, going inside the fridge for a high C, Welch's soda, grape soda. Disclaimer, this is not a sort of insight into how I did things. I never even carried Welch's in the house. I'm just saying. I'm sure they were able to deduce, your parents, that, okay, this Clyde has been quiet for a little while. Something's fishy going on in his room, right? But they just let it happen. It is something that is just completely normalized. I think that a lot of course, remember, most of the habits that we have in our adult lives, in our young adult lives, are created from when you are young. If you are conditioned to not masturbate, you will not masturbate, and vice versa. It is the same thing. If you are allowed and permitted to masturbate, then you're just gonna keep doing it. It's just as simple as that. The problem is that too many parents, right, that's responsible for a lot of the jobless, the wayward, purposeless individuals, males, in this day and age, have not raised the rod. They've been sparing the rod on the child with this horrible vice of masturbation. Let's keep going. Let's see what Bernarr has to say on this. Terrible arraignment of this evil by an authority. Interesting. Let's go on. Now he's attributing the reasoning for this permittance of this act because of some sort of higher power that's actually understands the strengths and weaknesses of masturbation, lack of strengths, of course, and are just permitting it. Let's read what he has to say. Masturbation outrages nature's sexual ordinances more than any or all of the norms of sexual sin man can perpetrate, and inflicts consequences the most terrible. It is the man's sin of sins. Guys, we're not reading the Bible. We're not reading the Bhagavad Gita that is talking about this stuff. This is a nutritionist. This is a person that has fixed his own tuberculosis due to his own implementation of a so-called radical diet. Clearly, he has some validation behind what he's saying. And the vice of vices, and has caused incomparably more sexual dilapidation, paralysis, and disease, as well as demoralization than all the other sexual depravities combined. I'm gonna tell you something. I already said this in a previous video, lads. The reason why sexual sin has been warned about in the aforementioned texts, right, especially masturbation, is that it is probably one of the highest pleasure that one can receive in the world, that one could feel in this world, in this reality. The more you continue to indulge in that feeling, of course, remember the technical bits behind it, the dopamine receptors, of course, in the first hit, the first orgasm, fires off a whole bunch of dopamine, and then to reach that initial hit, that initial feeling, you'll have to fire off way more dopamine because I think dopamine receptors die off or something like that because they're constantly being used. We keep chasing this feeling, and in order to obtain it, we do a lot of bad things. We start to validate a lot of bad things, hence demoralization. It is fine to not go and study with my friend, even though I promised him and his parents and my parents that we were going to study in the school library after school, because Melissa is now thinking about practicing her little two-hand grip motion, right? This is the problem. And of course, this is just a basic example, but it grows and it becomes worse. We are in a world where adults, we consider them, of course, looking to adults as children. We think that they are the best, the leaders of our lives, harbingers of wonderful choice and correct moral choices. But in the end, as you realize, if you keep your goggles on, your semen retention reinforced goggles on, as you mature in this reality, you realize that adults are caught and ensnared by this vice completely and make all the decisions in life, housing, interpersonal relationships, intimate relationships, based on the obtaining of this pleasure at any cost. Lads, guard your eyes, guard your mind, guard your soul, and do not allow anyone in your space that will permit you to descend. Let's continue. Neither Christendom nor heathendom suffers any evil at all to compare with this because of its universality, that's a hard word to say, and its terrible fatal ravages on body and mind. as Jesus said, okay, every sin committed is outside of the body, but he who sins sexually sinneth against their own body. Said right here. Because of course with masturbation, it is a weakening, it is a debilitation. You get weaker, you are expelling nutrients from the body. Your body is going to have less to work with when having to do physical tasks. And as a result, the various systems of the body that supplies energy to some degree and supplies reinforcement will be enervated. E-N-E-R-V-A-T-E-D, not innovated or energized, enervated. These are facts. Let's continue. And because it attacks the young idols of our hearts and hopes of our future years, pile all other evils together, this guy says, drunkenness upon all cheateries, swindlings, robberies, and murders, and tobacco upon both, for it is the greatest scourge, and all sickness, diseases, and pestilences upon all, and war as the cap sheath of them all, and all combined cause not a tithe as much human deterioration and misery as does this secret sin, because not only it literally weakens you because of the expulsion, but it demoralizes your the fabric of morality, of your moral compass. It messes about with it. The more you indulge in this, you validate sin, you validate evil actions, you validate non-compassion, apathy to your fellow man. This is the dangers of this vice. It's a catalyst to all the other sins, which is the reason why it is the worst of them. Now he's gonna start talking about young men that look good, but once they get into the act of masturbation, they start to change. Handsome boys wrecked. Interesting. You see a strong, handsome boy, clear-eyed with beautiful tinted complexion, straight, well-formed limbs. You admire his elastic step, his manly carriage, his fine, wholesome, symmetrically formed body. Perfect. He has had a very, very good dealings of genetics, it sounds like, this by this profile of this hypothetical young man. A year or two, or even a few months, intervene, and this boy has learned through evil associates. Evil, not like evil as in like, you know, Angelina Jolie's a right-hand man in Maleficent or something, or like the evil queen from Snow White's ingredient gatherer, right? No, not evil like that. We're talking evil as in introducing this young man to masturbation, permitting him to explore his body, leading him to this horrible vice, this horrible catalyst of sins. You see him again, right, this boy, after he has been permitted to masturbate, and you may well start with pain and surprise at the change. Is this the same boy I admired so much? You may exclaim. There is no light of health in his eyes now. There is no symmetry to his ungainly body, no tint to his sallow cheeks, no grace or manliness in his bearing. He looks old and weak, appears bashful and timid, seems afraid of your glance. The dark circles under his eyes, unshapenly appearance of his lower limbs, and general decrepit and demoralized condition tell a tale that no language can fittingly depict. The awful results of masturbation. Now you see, in this world, remember this is written a little while ago. Those were like the telltale, clear as day signs of someone that clearly ejaculates a lot, expulses their nutrients and their force a lot. The problem is now today, these guys are mixed in and lumped in with the public. They're all over this world. They have degenerates that are now able to ascend into very, very high executive positions of power in this world. And they make these decisions from this demoralized, decrepit, basest, descended mindset. What is degenerative to the body is now permitted. And what is powerful for the body is not permitted, lest there come a mass rebellion by these individuals to try to bring the whole world to their level. This is just reality now. This is the dangers of this situation. We do have a lot left in this chapter, so we're gonna cut it off here. Like, comment, subscribe, of course. Share the video with some peers, and we're gonna continue the rest of this video in part 2. Don't let this world get you down. It is full of a lot of things, right? A lot of bad things, malicious, evil associates that will permit you to descend. But you can't let that happen. You can't let them do it. You have to have a perspective. You have to have the power of ascertainment in order to see that you are falling into a ditch when it comes about. And stay radiant. I shall see you guys in the next one.